So for this episode, we're going to turn our attentions to the boost bus, the Zafira GSI OPC model in Europe. Has a few mechanical issues we need to sort out. We've got to change the radiator out. We've got a slight leak on the end cap. It's probably going to look a lot worse when we take it off. So it's losing a bit of water. So we've got a new radiator for it. And we've also got to change out the sump gaskets because it's never been done on this car. And they got the usual sump gasket leak because they go hard and brittle over time. So we're going to get it up in the air now, start stripping it down. This car does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's on a stock map. It's got a decat exhaust, air filter, and it just does the job. It's 200 horsepower, nothing amazing, but 7-seater, good looking MPV. I think they're a great car. Z20 let power, you can't go wrong. So you can see, very stock engine. It's very rare now to see a Z20 let with a stock engine. This is basically what they look like. Rubber hoses, the lot, crossover that goes over the top. Little silly airbox. It's got a KO4 off of a VXR on it. Right, so she's up in the air. First time I'm going to look underneath her because I know it's got a leak. It's been on, I can see it on the road, but I don't know how bad it is yet. So let's get a torch under here. So look around. I can see it's definitely wet around the sump joins. So the secondary sump up the top. Yeah, it's wet up there as well. Let's have a bit of focus up there. So the rocker cover gasket was leaking, so you can see there's a bit of old oil that come down the block, but you can see it's leaking around the sump joins. So yeah, going to pull off this sump. Got some gaskets. Make sure that this sump isn't porous because when they rust, sometimes they can become porous, but that one looks okay. When they get really rotten, you have to replace these because they'll be porous and you don't matter how many times you change the gasket, it will leak. So we're going to get this exhaust off now. We can start stripping her down. So I just pulled off the exhaust. You can see it's got a double decat on it. It's also got the pre-cat, decat as well. I fitted these in previous videos. So while both pipes are off, I thought I'd quickly show you a comparison between the stock size exhaust pipe and a 3-inch, and why I always recommend going 3-inch, anything stage 3 and above, because these engines, they like to breathe, and when they breathe they rev nicely, and if you don't put on a decent exhaust on, they choke because they can move a lot of gas. So you can see that is a stock size pipe, and if you compare it to a 3-inch exhaust, you can see how much more air that pipe's going to flow. So I would recommend on any of the cars that you're trying to tune, if you're going to go for power with these, always go 3-inch and try and get one with a built-in decat into the elbow as well, and it just allows a lot more smoother gas flow. So that's the sump off. I managed to do it around the time that I needed an oil change as well, so you can see the oil's a little bit dark, but you can tell that the car's an original car, and it's a GM gasket. There's no history of it ever being changed, and there's no way anyone changes them from GM gaskets, but you can see it's still pretty flexible. It's not all sealanted up, not full of sealant. This is the way they should be. This is how you know that a car hasn't been played with by a bodge job mechanic. Doesn't really understand how the gaskets work. You can kind of see in there the double channel system that they run on. If you bypass that by putting sealant all in it, you then take all the effectiveness out of the gasket and it's going to leak straight away. Just want to show you while I'm under here the reason that you can't remove these sumps without raising up the engine, so you're going to have to remove the engine mount. I'm going to show you. So you can see there, get stuck on the subframe. You can't pull it down any further because it sits on the block. you can start trying to prise it and it creates loads of problems. So it's literally the best way is just to take up a couple of inches off the engine mount. Makes the job a ton easier and it makes it a lot more simple when you're refitting it. So now the airbox is off. Do you want to give you a quick tip? So whenever you're working on any of these cars with these turbos exposed like this, so easy to drop stuff down there and not even realise you've done it. As soon as it goes around into the compressor blades, you start the car up, destroys your turbo, turns out expensive. Just get yourself one of these caps. These caps go perfectly over the top of the compressor cover, and it's just going to stop you getting anything down into there and damaging your turbo. So now it's time to get this engine mount undone. So we're only going to undo that bolt, that bolt, that bolt. So I appreciate that not everyone's got an engine crane, but if you ain't got an engine crane, this ain't the job for you. So you need to raise up this engine. There's no way you can do it from underneath because you can't jack it off the sumps, can't jack it off the gearbox. So you need to raise it up from the top. So if you ain't got an engine crane, you're better off going to borrow one, rent one, or just getting a garage to do it. So that's all you need to raise it off, maybe 2 inches or so, you can get it out. Easy peasy. So this is the sump, state of it. But yeah, I think we found the fault. You can see obviously the sump's been leaking along here. When I started pulling the sump gasket apart, it just broke away. Original gasket, can't expect anything less. Took some beating, that has, and it's done a few miles. So going to give this sump a clean up, and that's going to solve the problem. Just been underneath there, and there is no rear main leak. So that's just dripped down from the sump, but there's no leak from the rear main, so it's definitely just the upper part of the gasket. While we're under, I just want to show you. So these are the balancer shafts. So you can see on the crank there's a gear, and these balancer shafts stop vibration through the crank. The LEH doesn't have it, that's why you go for a balancer shaft delete off the LEH. They have a dual mass flywheel. We fit them. I normally fit a lightweight flywheel as well. At the same time, lightweight pulley, never had a problem with vibrations, even running high power. So I've just spent an hour and a half cleaning these sumps out. This top alloy part was absolutely nasty, proper crudded up, but got it, most of it off, 99% of it off. Checked the inside of this sump as well, just to show that it wasn't porous. Didn't want it to be leaking oil through, but the powder coat's absolutely perfect in there still. Check out the oil level sensors just so I can clean it all out. So everything's ready to go. Right, so this is the kit we're going to use, the bottom end kit today with the gaskets. I always get the whole complete kit because the 2 gaskets alone cost about 40 quid. The whole kit costs about 50, 55 quid. Not sure of the price. One of the most important washers in the whole of the bottom end, which don't come in this kit, which is really strange because it should come with everything, is this seal. This is for the oil level sensor that goes into the sump. If you don't change this seal, as I said in previous videos, it's going to leak, and it's going to leak badly. So repeat after me, boys and girls. No sealant on the gasket. These bolts, 20 Newton meters. These bolts, 40 Newton meters. I'm just going to keep bugging people until they stop using sealant on the gaskets. Yeah, look, here's a comparison between that seal that I keep going on about replacing. You can see if you look down the side of it, it doesn't bulge out anymore. It goes flat. The side of it goes flat. You can see there. Obviously, the new one is round. And then obviously over time, the heat makes that go hard and brittle. Nice fresh one, it's going to seal properly. That one didn't have much life in it left anyway, it split when I took it off. So the oil level sensor, I just do up to 8 Newton meters. Put this up into the upper part of the sump before you bolt this on, otherwise you're not going to be able to do it obviously. From the factory they're cable tied there, just stops this splitting. If you wonder why you get these out and they're splitting, they normally ain't got a cable tie there, so these are moving around and they split. While I was under car, there was a little bit of damage to the vacuum box. Looks like something's hit it in the past. Don't know if it's leaking, but don't want to risk it. So I'm just going to do the rear boost control solenoid bypass while I'm under there and just run the front one. You've got to leave it plugged in. As I'm not into weight saving on this car, I'm just going to leave the bracket on and bolt it back to the inlet manifold. Get rid of that. Get rid of the vacuum lines, so I'll show you quickly how to do the vacuum lines to just run the front one. Bolt the bracket back to the inlet, see there, and then plug that sensor back in. If you don't, you're going to get an EML light. So then, this is the only vacuum we've got coming down. That is for the recirc valve. So you're going to pull that up through the engine bay now. So I'm going to drop the car down and I'll show you how to do the vacuum lines. So if I'm just doing a stock car with these, I just literally take off this section here with a T-piece. This section will then go into the inlet manifold. This one will then go to the fuel pressure regulator. And then this one is going to go to the recirc valve. And it's so they've kindly got like a split in the recirc valve pipe about halfway along. So that's perfect position for that to sit in. You can see there's a joiner there. That joiner is going to fit perfectly. So that's all I do is I take off this section here. So there's the vacuum down there. You can see I've plugged it into the fuel pressure regulator, and it also now goes down the back there to the inlet manifold. See if I can show you. Down the back there to the inlet manifold. And then this section here with the extra T-piece is going to be used for this recirc valve. So the recirc valve is going to go round the back there, like that, and then plug into that T-piece. I'm going to use a different silicone joiner because the one that's on it's too big for that little nipple. So just reuse another one of them joiners, put it onto the recirc valve, and that way it just goes straight on. And that's it. That's how easy it is to delete the secondary boost control solenoid at the back of the engine, and now you're going to run full boost in all gears. When they get a bit old, the end caps start to split. You can see here, people don't really check the end caps, and they end up leaking because they might leak midway down. You can't see them. You can see this one started to leak, and it's also leaking on the inside as well, down there. So we just bought a new radiator. Just going to start pulling this out. So that's the radiator off. So for those of you that don't know, the Zafira and the Astra Mark IV, they share most of the same chassis and subframe, etc. This is the rad pack from the Zafira. It's exactly the same as the Astra one. You can see that's the aircon rad there. You've got the aircon fan here. This is the tiny little intercooler. That's why you always got to go front mount intercoolers on these cars. This one's going to be getting done soon. And that's the huge fan that takes up half the engine bay. So yeah, what we normally do with the Astras is all this lot comes off. You run a front mount intercooler, get rid of that nasty big fan, put 2 twin fans on there, and get rid of all that aircon compressor, the whole lot. And it saves a lot of weight and a lot of space. So for the new radiator, we've just gone for a new OE item. This is the 32mm thick one, which is the one for the Astras. You can get a bit thicker if you went to a diesel one and you've got the space. You can run a 44mm one. But we just went for the standard fit. So the original rad's done pretty well. A lot of miles on it. So you can see where it started to split apart. Very common. This is plastic, obviously, and this is alloy. And they just start to, over time, loads of heat cycles, loads of pressure, just start to leak. So if you're starting to lose water, obviously the aircon rad's over the front of it, so you never see it. You might have a little pull coming from here, you think it's a water pipe. Give the radiator a check. You can see it starting to leak on this side as well. Just getting old. They're only cheap. Oh, the joys of OE parts, bolting things on, bolting things off, so easy. I'm so used to custom made parts where everything's got to be made, everything's got to be cleaned, everything's got to be custom fabricated. Just bolt these together. Also, what I'm going to do is just change out the side lights for these LED ones. I've got loads of these. They're really smart. They're the best ones I've found. They're not that expensive either. And I'll show you a comparison between the normal side lights and these and show you how much crisper it looks. So I just pulled the car back, turned the lights off. You can see it a bit clearer. So the comparison between the two is clear to see. The left LED, the right. You can see how much crisper that looks. Just little cheap mods like that sometimes make the biggest difference.